Many United fans, Danny, I must admit, are showing, I think, signs of pragmatism this morning. There's no from Manchester. Gents, name a team that loses its first choice defence, has a new goalkeeper to the league, who wouldn't have problems. There's another one. The best managers have had to weather storms during their careers. This is a bad period for sure. Sometimes these periods have to be endured to separate the wheat from the strong. Ten Hag will weather the storm.
Yeah, well, as I said, I think his first season gives him enough in the bank to give him the opportunity to weather this storm, but it can't carry on too much longer, losing games continually to lesser opposition by, not doing the basics.
Yeah.
Because they're not losing games against teams that are really high quality and you think, tough game, that one.
Yes.
They're games they should be winning.
But if we're in the territory, and myself and Danny are, and we're not necessarily saying that we have the zeitgeist on this, but if we believe that Ten Hag is never going to eclipse Jurgen Klopp or potentially Pep Guardiola, more likely, what is it that Man United are aiming for? Because the criticism of Manchester United, okay, right now it's at the extreme end because they're 10th in the league and they're getting beat by sides that you'd never expect, and they've lost their first two Champions League games. But if Manchester United's modus operandi is to win the league, and we believe that this guy doesn't have the ability to do it, doesn't matter how much money he's given, then what is it that Man United are for?
So if not Ten Hag, who could win them the league?
Well, I mean, that's the $64 million question that those in situ at Manchester United have to ask.
I mean, the board at Manchester
themselves.
United would think, after Klopp and Pep, Ten Hag's the next best thing.
Well, they obviously believe that, yeah. They do. Which is why
there's nobody immediately springs up, he should be in there. You can't throw anybody
Well,
at
the problem is there's no guarantee on the planet anyone you bring in, even if they're better than Ten Hag, is going to overtake Guardiola in what he's doing, because he's amassed an amazing squad and he's a wonderful manager who's he's just got the step ahead of everyone. So, but by the end of this season, if United haven't stayed in the top four in the Champions League, I would say that's a huge question.
Oh yeah, then
mark.
the big questions would be asked. At the moment, United fans, it appears this morning on this show, have got their feet in the ground. Jerry, admittedly, United are in disarray, but how many managers have had problems Ten Hag has found himself enduring at the moment? Multiple injuries to key players and off-the-pitch dramas. They give him time, he'll get there. Scott, big United fan, give him time and he'll get there. Do you go with that? Morning, Scott.
You all right, guys? Hope you're well.
Morning.
I was at the game last night. I mean, really poor mistake by the keeper.
Mm-hmm.
It's just really poor at the moment.
It is.
But I've got to say that actually the worst part of United at the moment is behind the scenes, and that's what's causing it all. Last night, thousands and thousands of Galatasaray fans were in the home end. United season ticket holders are able to give their season tickets back to the club in faith to go to proper fans, and they're being sold by the club at inflated prices yesterday to Galatasaray fans.
But that doesn't affect anyone on the pitch losing at home to Palace, Brighton, or Galatasaray.
But everything trickles down from the bottom and from the top, and it's getting out of hand.
Do you think Richard Arnold is a capable CEO?
No, Simon.
No,
Simon, get on the board at United, because you talk sense. I watch it I listen every day, and he's taken over from Woodward, and we were expecting different things because he's saying I'm going to go in a different angle. It's the same. It's the same stuff, and nothing changes at United until the top changes. And
Scott, actually, it's a relevant point you make. As you're saying that, one of my colleagues has got in touch to say this needs addressing. United are now investigating how scores of Galatasaray fans managed to buy tickets in the home end last night. Were you there, Scott? Did you witness it?
Much more than scores, honestly.
Really?
There's videos going online about people being attacked. It's just wrong. And the club, it's money over everything at United. Money over everything.
Wow. Okay, Scott, thanks for that. I mean, Paul, I don't know if you were there last night, but this certainly is a backstory to what we saw last night, that Galatasaray fans managed to get themselves in amongst United fans.
Hello.
Morning, Paul.
Is that me?
Yeah.
Oh, hi. I thought, listen, that's got nothing to do with how they played on the football pitch, but it is a symptom of what goes on beyond the football pitch, no question about it. And that's really the reason I'm phoning up. I don't phone these shows often. In fact, I only phone your show, and I only phone when I disagree with Simon.
Yeah.
I mean, the last time I phoned was 2 years ago to talk about Murtaugh and Arnold. But listen, one of the reasons I disagree with you, Simon, is that you have somewhat protected the owners at the football club. Now, listen, I don't care how much they pay to the club. I don't care about a leveraged buyout.
Yep.
I don't care about debt. I don't care how much money they take out the football club. Good luck to them. They're spending the money on transfers. That's all I care about. What I care about is football. And in this football club, there is no footballing structure at all. They remain the only... Well, what is the reason for that? They remain the only club, as far as I know, in the world who are totally manager-centric, manager-dominated, obsessed with finding the next messianic manager, right? But the problem is, it's not 1945 and it's not 1986. In 2020,
but these are very easy fixes, aren't they, Paul? And you would have to wonder why, that given the cost implications of some of the decision-making processes that you say they're not making, why they would do them. I would advocate and suggest to you that a lot of managers want a different kind of dynamic than a set-up in other football clubs. So, for example, Ten Hag might like direct access to the CEO, might like direct access to the money rather than having to go through a director of football. So it may not just be something as simple as the Glazers or Richard Arnold in this instance, because the Glazers are not going to sit there and run your football club. They're going to give budgets that they sign off and let Richard Arnold run it. That's why things like holes in roofs are ridiculous, because they're easy wins to give the people that are unhappy. So if you look at that in isolation, you have to wonder why people would be making the most fundamentally weak decisions about very easy fixes when they're available for them to achieve. There must be a reason behind it, rather than just the Glazers don't care, they're not paying any attention to it. They're paying enough attention to allow £200 million a season to be spent on players.
And most of them Ten Hag's players, by the way, recently.
But Paul, do you agree with Dan in Rotherham that Ten Hag gets too much praise for last season? United lost 25% of the games.
No, I don't agree it's too much praise, but let me just come back on that, if I may, Simon.
Yeah.
Okay, look, each manager, the last two managers so far, I think Solskjaer was given 400 million, then Ten Hag has been given 400 million. Now, you can say there may be a reason behind it, but so far we've got no idea what that is. But what we do know is that clubs that are successful do not operate in this way. Now, how can it be that you're giving one man £400 million in 2 seasons to spend?
Yep.
And how can it be that way? And then you can claim to be a successful businessman. Well, you can't do both. You can't lose £1 billion on football players, give each one 400 million, and then become a successful business person. You're not. And worst of all, once you do that, you've screwed yourself. Excuse my French. Well, but you're stuck to the manager. You can't now fire the manager.
Again,
because you've invested so much in him to be your messianic manager.
Put the alternate context on this, right? Last year you finished third in the league. You won the League Cup. You're up against opposition like Manchester City that are far more significant than opposition that you've been up against in previous incarnations. Isn't there an element of, yes, the Glazers aren't doing what they could and should be doing by hiring the right management beneath them that gets the essence of what's missing, but also the nature of what you're competing against, the marketplace that you're now in, is a very different marketplace than the one that Manchester United used to dominate 10 or 15 years ago, when David Gill and Alex Ferguson were in their most imperious moments.
But you've got to compete. It doesn't matter what the marketplace is. Winning the Mickey
But you
Mouse
are competing, aren't you? You're outspending people.
No, we're not. We came third and we've won a Mickey Mouse.
Well, you're outspending people, though, aren't you?
But I'm not interested in competing for winning money. Neither any Man United fans. We're interested in winning trophies. If you look at Manchester City, all you've got to do is a simple Google search. Type in Manchester City football structure. What you'll find is about 7 or 8 departments staffed with tens of people, best in class, all linked together, all working in the same direction, presumably, and the manager now slots into the middle. That's why I disagree with you when you say that City will fall when Pep leaves. I disagree because they're not manager-centric. The manager comes into a structure which is linked together and built. If he fails, he can fall through and the structure remains.
But there's no way, is there, Paul, that Manchester City, under the 7 or 8 years that the Mansour ownership had prior to the arrival of Pep Guardiola, were achieving the levels that Pep Guardiola achieved? You had Pellegrini in there, you had Mancini in there, and Mark Hughes to start it off. The revolution to the size, scale, and performance of Man City is entirely Guardiola-centric. And the moment Guardiola goes out, you will have a dip in the same way that Man United had a dip with Ferguson, Man United and Arsenal had a dip with Wenger.
Paul, are you saying, to simplify this, this. Everyone that likes of City and Liverpool are singing from the same hymn sheet. At Manchester United, with the Glazers at the top, they're not.
They just don't. There is no winning structure. That's the only thing that matters. Don't talk to me about money.
Yeah,
there's
fair
no
enough.
winning. There's no winning structure at the football club, because what we are set, where Manchester City is set up as a global corporate in a global game, they're akin to Amazon. We are akin. Manchester United are akin to a corner shop. There's two blokes in the back room and some guy on the till making all the decisions for the shop.
But is that a matter of fact, Paul? I mean, you're trotting that out as if it's a matter of fact. I don't have the hierarchical structure and the chart of who works when, why, and where.
Nonetheless, it's a brilliant analogy, isn't it?
No, it's an interesting one, but it doesn't necessarily make it right.
Paul, finish it off for us.
Well, just Google. Do me a favour. Google that structure of Manchester United, and you'll see 6 Glazers on the board, a couple of guys you've never heard of, and Sir Alex Ferguson.
But we're not talking about boards. We're talking about the infrastructure beneath them to provide the fabric of the quality of a winning culture that
You're talking
want.
about recruitment
We're talking about
teams,
departments.
director of football.
We're talking about all of these
etc.
people, not the board structure. I'm not talking about.
I think there's some
Glazer.
substance in what you say. I think there's some substance in what he's saying.
I'm not disputing it.
I'd have
I'm
to
just
look
trying to
at it
evaluate
myself.
how
Let's
accurate
put it to you, and I think if Paul had the chance to ask you this, he would. Do United have the best in class?
Well, evidently, if you look at the outcomes, you'd have to say no. Because I don't think they've got the best in class in the dugout. So that's the first argument that we've already covered. We've already covered that the best in class is sitting in other dugouts. If we look at the players that they're recruiting, the best in class, well, Erling Haaland's the best in class. They may have a boy up top.
They missed out on him.
That may well be something they've got.
Paul, this is someone who works out. Paul's gone. He works in the media, but he's come to me with this. There is a fear. Can you identify with this, Danny? That Ten Hag has started to lose the dressing room. There are fears that he doesn't have the players to play. He wants them to play. He wants players to work hard and run non-stop. The problem is some of those players don't have the legs to do that.
Well, you can. It's not always about legs. It's about organisation, discipline in a system and understanding which players do what jobs. But yes, I do agree with it, because I am watching a team at the moment with a group of players who don't all seem on the same page with what they're doing. Hence the fact I can't see how they're trying to really play an identity.
Yeah.
That comes from the manager. I don't see United outwork and outfight teams. They're too easy to play against generally. I've said it for ages, and I've said it especially in the middle of the park, and that comes from the top.
Yeah.
Now, does a manager have the capability of getting really good, great players to work harder and do the stuff that you have to do off the ball to create a winning mentality and a winning team? Of course they do. And David Silva was the best example I ever saw the numbers the year after Pep came.
Jim White and Simon Jordan. Monday to Friday mornings from 10 on AM, on DAB, via the talkSPORT app and on your smart speaker. talkSPORT.